I want to welcome to the program, in studio, I might add, which is like our new thing. I just love having.
It's very cool to be in studio.
Having our guests in studio. He's the 62nd governor of Maryland.
You started to say I was the sexiest governor, didn't
well,
you?
that was it.
The 62nd.
That was it.
Yeah.
It's a, what do they call that?
Yeah, Freudian slip.
Freudian slip. Yeah. No. Larry Hogan, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you guys.
Listen, this is great. You came bearing gifts.
Well, I figured if I got a couple of shots in you, you'd be more fun to talk to. So I brought a little bourbon.
You did, and we had a good discussion about this. You are a frequenter of Maryland-based spirits, from what I understand.
Exactly.
But you knew well enough to know that you were coming with bourbon to people who spent some time in Kentucky.
It was a suck up to the Kentucky contingent, but
right?
I mean, they do have the best stuff, and I actually drink Woodford, so I just figured I'd be comfortable drinking my own bourbon and let you guys have a few.
Fair enough.
But I bought it in Maryland, so it counts.
Well, it says here, Bay Ridge Wine and Spirits.
See that?
Yeah.
Annapolis.
Yeah, let there be no mistake.
I did not go down to Kentucky to get it.
Proprietor of a home state business there, which you yourself are a small business owner. Have been a small business owner most of your career before you got into politics.
I spent my whole life in the private sector. I mean, I've been around politics, but I was founded and ran small businesses my whole life until I became governor. I had never held elective office before, and I just ran because I was really frustrated with what was going on in our state. It was a monopoly.
Yeah,
bluest state in the country. They had been raising taxes 43 times in a row.
Well, I remember this when you first ran in 2014. I think the consensus in 2013 and before was that Maryland was just so off the map. I mean, it was amongst the most high-tax state in the union.
Yeah.
Every single...
We were 49th out of 50 states in economic performance.
Oof.
And we had run, 10,000 businesses out of the state, 100,000 jobs. And a Gallup poll came out that said 48% of all Marylanders wanted to leave the state. And that's when I said, as a small business guy, enough is enough. And I'm going to try to do something about it. And quite frankly, some of my friends and clients and family members thought I was crazy. They were like, I'm thinking about running for governor. They said, what state?
Are you moving, Larry?
It's the bluest state in America. I mean, but we pulled off with no money. We pulled off the biggest surprise upset in the country. And but yeah,
it was a huge surprise. I mean, 2014 was the first year you ran, and it was a red year, no question about it. But I was intimately involved in almost everything politics at the time. At no point did I think you were going to win the governorship in Maryland.
Well, you're not alone, because at no point did anyone other than me think that I was going to win. And RGA, they make decisions about these states, are pretty solid. These are the winnable ones, and these are the ones that we don't have a shot. I was at the very end of the no way in hell list. I was voted least likely to succeed, and I was trying to convince my buddy Chris Christie, who at the time wasn't as good a buddy as he is now. He was chair, and
yeah, that's right.
And finally, 10 days left to go in the election. They had already spent all their money. I think he raised $150 million. They spent it in 26 other states. We were not one of them. Well, we had a poll that said we were about to close the gap. We were down by 2. And so Christie has Phil Cox, the executive director, do a poll. They're like, we're not going to waste money on a poll in Maryland. And the poll came back with me tied.
Yeah.
So they had no money left. And Christie says, don't we have a line of credit? And Phil says, we've never spent money on a line of credit for a race before. He goes, well, can I do it? Do I need a vote of the executive committee? And Phil says, you better get somebody else to second it, because this is the money we're going to use to operate to pay everybody after the election.
Yeah.
So he calls Mike Pence. He says, Mike, I want to talk to you about adding one more state into the mix. It's the last 10 days of the race. And he goes, I want to talk about drawing money on the line of credit. I want to talk to you about Maryland. And Christie says, there's a long, perceptible pause. And he says, Chris, have you been drinking?
Said, not today.
Yeah. So they ended up putting $1 million too in the race for the last 10 days for Washington TV, and it pushed us over the top. But we had gotten to the goal line with nothing, running on fumes.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, and you closed it out. But I think, unlike a lot of people who were elected in 2014 in blue states in a good year, 2018 treated them very differently, right? And not only did it not treat you differently, you expanded it.
Yeah, well, I was running against Ben Jealous, who was the former president of the NAACP in one of the blackest states in the country and the bluest state in the country.
Yeah.
And people take it for granted now because we won by 12 points. But this is a state that, Donald Trump lost to Hillary by 31, and he lost to Joe Biden by 33. And in the middle of that, we won by 12. So it was like I said, we ran 45 points ahead. It's a tough, it's a tough state.
Right, you got to do things differently.
It's tougher than California or New York or anywhere else.
Yeah, well, I got to imagine a lot of that is the job performance, right? And we've been I was looking through some things to get familiar with this interview, and one of the things that really stuck out to me, obviously you've had popularity throughout your entire tenure, but the conservative accomplishments that you've actually racked up here is no joke, right? It gets brushed over because you're dealing with a supermajority Democratic legislature.
Look, we've got more than 70%, far left progressives in both houses of our legislature.
Right.
Which is, the fact that we've been able to get anything done is difficult. It's not like working in a red state. It's pretty easy.
Right.
Yeah. So, I'm looking at some of these accomplishments. This would be if this was a red state governor, they could spike the football on this. But tax cuts 7 years in a row.
8 actually.
8.
Yeah.
How the hell do you?
Now.
I mean this sincerely. Yeah. I mean, I realize that state legislatures work a little differently, but how in the world do you get a supermajority Democrat government to agree to something like that?
Well, it's not really easy, and we had our battles, and we didn't get everything done that we wanted to get done, but we did cut taxes 8 years in a row by $4.8 billion. We eliminated 14,000 regulations. We took our economy from 49th to 6th, biggest economic turnaround in America.
Wow.
We went from a place where no one wanted to do business and they were all leaving to a place that's growing businesses and jobs like crazy. We have, we're growing jobs at twice the rate of the rest of the country, and our economy's booming. But really, with the legislature, look, we came in right away. I had the people behind me,
right?
And throughout most of the 8 years, we've been over 70% approval among every demographic group, and we use that. So we have the public, including Democrats and independents, lighting up their legislators, telling them we want to cut taxes.
I mean, what a novel idea, going directly to the people who have seen the results of what you've accomplished.
Well, it's how I was elected. So there were people that had never voted for Republican in their lives that crossed over to vote for me. Only 24% Republican in my state, but we won 2 elections in a row. Because people agreed with what I was talking about. And I didn't, get into arguing about every single thing that I might not agree with them on, but I focused on the economic issues, which they did agree on. We're getting taxed out of the state. So some of it I could do on my own. Cutting tolls and fees I could do, which we did, a couple $100 million of that, a couple $1 billion actually. But 2.8 or 3 billion we did a big one. This year was the largest tax cut in history. Last year we had done the same thing, and it was just getting buy-in and trading off just certain things to say this is important enough where we're willing to work with you on your priorities, reach it across the aisle, and but we got a lot of what we wanted to get done, and it changed the whole direction of our state.
Yeah, it's the economy is just, I mean, the stats speak for themselves, right? I mean, you go from 48 to 6. I think that's just about all you need to say about that. But it's certainly not the only component. Look, Baltimore in particular, Maryland in general, has had a reputation for crime issues.
Yeah.
There's been, huge defund the police movements in Maryland and across the entire state. And yet you put the opposite into action. I mean,
well, look, I was, first of all, on the defund the police, I was, I think, the first leader in America to speak out, elected leader, to speak out strongly against it. I was on national TV the first day I ever heard about defund the police and started saying it was absurd and ridiculous. It was far left lunacy that, we needed more funding for police. But then, we put the words into action. And in my democratic state, I started a refund the police initiative, which really started the dialogue. That was before Eric Adams got elected in New York. It was before the Democrats started backpedaling and Biden started talking about it. It was way before that. And we put $500 million more into state and local police, 50% increase in police funding to local jurisdictions. And so, it's and I think that was we had huge support among Democrats and among black Democrats who were rejecting this defund the police.
Well, that's
they were
a secret.
The victims of crime in Baltimore City were concerned about the safety of their neighborhoods, and they said, "Thank you, Governor."
Yeah.
So, I actually have an 80% approval rating in Baltimore City.
I mean, that's a secret to it, right? Is that you actually talk to people here.
Well, that's the key. But, we have violence in the urban areas is a huge problem.
Yeah.
And people were kind of afraid to take it on. I took it head on, and not only was that popular with my Republican base, but it was popular among Democrats.
Yeah, well,
who didn't like this crazy.
Because like national progressives like to frame this, any sort of support for police is somehow a racial component to it, right? Which if you actually listen to, and this is happening in city councils across America right now, is that the people who are most affected of this live in the inner city and have a very different opinion than the coastal progressives that are trying to inform us here.
Well, so along those lines, I had only been governor for 89 days when the worst violence in 47 years broke out in Baltimore City.
That's the Freddie Gray.
After the death of Freddie Gray. And, unlike almost every mayor and governor across the country in 20 when they were having all of the issues, I immediately declared a state of emergency, sent in 1,000 extra police officers, 4,000 members of the National Guard, and we immediately stopped the violence. A lot of people were afraid to do that.
Yeah.
But the people of Baltimore thanked me for keeping them safe and for standing up when their mayor wouldn't and when other people weren't. And so, I actually ended up teaching a course at NGA about how you deal with a crisis like that. But a lot of people didn't pay attention to it when it happened in 20, and nobody really took the right actions.
Well, how much of that you think from Democrats' standpoint, when their immediate reaction is blame police, defund police, it's got to be a lot. How much of that is just informed by the national progressive movement? Because, like as we've been talking about here, the constituency's not for it, right? And somehow you just identified that immediately, whereas your Democratic colleagues at a local level were still following the progressive wish list.
Yeah, well, no question, the progressive, it was progressive doctrine that you had to defund the police. It was all the narrative against the police. Look, we did need some police reforms and some things we could do better. Community policing and making sure that we were keeping our cops honest. But who hates dishonest cops the most is honest cops who work hard every day. But the defund the police, I think they made a huge mistake. Everybody backtracked. But I would argue I was one of the first ones to push back on it, and I think it was successful. I
also noticed that you're sort of a leader in the school choice area, as well, which is again same community, big deal.
Same community with a different problem.
Yeah.
So we've got some of the best schools in America in our state and some of the most highly funded schools, but Baltimore City, which is one of the most highly funded school districts in America, just has a terrible track record, and the kids are being cheated. So. School choice, and we funded scholarships to attend the private schools of your choice, which I also got the Democrats in the legislature to pass.
That is unreal. Because that's a hell of a fight across the country that they put up.
It was a huge battle, and it wasn't 100% successful because we wanted to do a lot more money, but we chipped away at it year after year, and put some money, about $50 million total, into scholarships so that poor kids and deserving kids that were struggling with persistently failing schools could attend a private school, a Catholic school, or a Jewish day school, or wherever they wanted to go. And they're, for less money, they're actually getting a better education.
It's almost without exception that you see these activists across the country who push for like the teachers' unions and such.
Yeah.
They always send their kids to private schools, but they demand children who are stuck in failing schools and their parents have no
choice. Yeah.
No choice. No.
Yeah. Yeah, no choice.
Oh, it's 100% true.
Yep.
But look, here's my question to you. We just went through sort of 4 big kind of litmus test conservative issues, the stuff that we're fighting about today. And you've dealt with all of them. You've put points on the board on all of them. How frustrating is it to you when you're sort of branded nationally as some sort of like Democrat, moderate or whatever, when you're like, well, look, I'm holding it down with a 70% Democratic legislature?
Well, look, it's the toughest state in the country. It is the bluest state in the country if you go by presidential election results. And we've been really successful. And I've been arguably in the top 3 most popular governors in the country for 8 straight years among Republicans, Democrats, and independents. And that's hard to do. But I get, it is a little frustrating because I'm a lifelong common sense conservative. I was a chairman of Youth for Reagan.
I was going to ask you about that.
I'm a solid, conservative, but we're winning battles on really important things just because we're not maybe out there making as much noise on Twitter about certain things.
Yeah, is it
might
tone?
Turn off somewhat. I think a lot of it is tone. I mean, we're working hard, standing up for the things we believe in, but I also, by necessity, and by just the way I actually believe, I think you have to work across the aisle to get things done. And that's why I think all of the most popular elected officials in the country are Republicans in blue states, governors, Charlie Baker and Sununu and Phil Scott. It's because we can't get anything done without convincing some Democrats. And it turns out, working across the aisle is really popular with voters. It's popular among Republicans and independents and Democrats. So, the people that would say, well, you're a Democrat, you're a rhino, whatever. I mean, I don't really care because I'm doing much better than all of them are. So,
but I do have to say there is some value in tweeting crazy things. I got to say.
I'm happy that you're doing it. I just don't. You could do it for me.
No, you got to check with staff on that. I don't feel like that's. You don't want smug anywhere near your Twitter account. But it's interesting, right? Because nobody ever talks about this. I mean, this is why I was wondering about it today and wanted to research a little bit about the things that you've gotten done. Because from we brand everything nationally.
Yeah.
You are this, you are that.
Right.
But if you look under the hood, it tells a really different story. And it seems to me like obviously you've made your impressions of President Trump well known, which I think probably guides a lot of that discussion in terms of who is this guy.
Yeah.
But on a policy basis, man, that's hard to argue with.
Well, I actually, I had the exact same support among Republicans and conservatives as Donald Trump did. I just happened to add to that by, being successful at also convincing other people to come over, including, suburban women and moderates and independents and swing Democrats, which is something, that we haven't done well as a party, which is why, we lost the White House and the Senate and the House, and we lost governor seats and state legislative bodies because they did the opposite of what I did. They played to the base, but they didn't attract any converts. And, successful politics is about addition and multiplication. So it's not like you're this or that. It's like in my state, I didn't have that choice. I had to fire up the base and win all the independents and win a chunk of Democrats, or I wouldn't be governor.
If I think about it, maybe in a strange way, it seems like this election cycle we're currently in is kind of like a macrocosm of what you initially stumbled upon in Maryland, where the economic situation is dire and it's become clear to everyone. And I think that the conservative ideas of how to improve things is something that would appeal across voting lines.
There's no question about that. And so there was a piece, Washingtonian did a piece that said something to the effect that I was really Trump before Trump, because I was able to win over blue collar Democrats and union households, and I won an area called Dundalk in eastern Baltimore County. Hadn't voted Republican in 73 years, and I won by 25 points because I was talking to people who had lost their jobs at a steel mill and people that were concerned that they were getting taxed to death. And I didn't have to go argue about whatever red meat social issue of the day was the Republicans were talking about. I was talking about things that people cared about: bread and butter. How are they going to pay their bills? How are they going to feed their family? And that's, I think, what the Republican Party should be focused on. The things where we can gain. It's you got to get to 50% plus one. You can't keep. We've lost the popular vote 7 out of the last 8 presidential elections. That's no way to for a successful long-term future for the party. I said I was a Reagan guy, involved in that campaign, Reagan delegate. That's what he did. I mean, he won 49 states for a reason, because he focused on the things that most people agreed with.
It's a pretty good number.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about that, the origins of your political interests. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned, was the getting involved with Reagan kind of the on-ramp?
Well, so my dad was a member of Congress he got elected in the late 60s through the mid-70s, and so I was around politics, but it was a funny story. My dad was on the House Judiciary Committee during the impeachment of Nixon. He was the first Republican to come out for his impeachment, which did not win him a lot of fans with some folks at the time. But now they look back and say, he had a lot of courage to stand up and do, all these years later, people pretty much think he did the right thing, putting country ahead of party and his own personal political considerations. But my dad was helped Jerry Ford become the president, really, because they were friends and they served together. He came in the same time with George Bush and Jack Kemp and those guys. But so my dad was a chairman of the Ford campaign, and I went to the convention with him. I was in college, and in '76. So I go to the convention. I'm marching around the floor with my Reagan hat and my Reagan sign and a Reagan T-shirt.
No kidding.
And my dad's like, "What in the hell are you doing? You're supposed to be with Ford." I'm like, I love this Reagan guy. So in '80, I was, he's
like, look at this ungrateful.
'84, I was Reagan delegate. I was all very involved. So my dad got me interested in politics, but Reagan was the guy that really
What
was my
spoke to you?
North Star.
What spoke to you about Reagan? What was the connection? there?
He just had this is what I think is missing today. He had a hopeful, positive vision for America. He set broad goals that people could agree with. And he said, "This is what I stand for, and this is what I'm going to try to get done." And he didn't really. He did challenge a sitting president, but the first time it didn't win. But he was not afraid to speak out when he thought the party was going in the wrong direction or focusing on the wrong things. But he really he focused on economic issues. It was the malaise and of Jimmy Carter, and it's very similar.
Pretty
to
nice.
Again,
it's like deja vu. It's
Yep.
like gas. The energy problems and weakness around the world, and it's almost feels exactly like the Wisconsin Times with the current president.
So you go into business, you're living your life. What brings you back?
Well, so I did have one little stint in politics. When I was 35, I challenged Steny Hoyer, who is he's been in office for 150 years. But it was a district that was 3-1 Democrat to Republican, and I had no money, and again, no one thought I could win. I was a punk, guy. And Hoyer was leader of Congress. He was the number 3 guy in Congress at the time. They declared me the winner. I won 4 out of 5 counties, and they were, that night they were like a surprising upset. Leader of Congress goes down to defeat, and it was the same year that Bill Clinton was beating George Bush, and I think Bush was losing that district by 28 points. And so the next afternoon, more votes came into Prince George's County, a minority county, and they were all busing people in to vote for Bill Clinton, and I ended up losing a close race, but it's Hoyer's closest race of his career. And that was 2 years before Contract with America and Newt Gingrich taking over. I ran in the presidential year with a huge Democratic turnout. It still almost won. But then I said I'm going to stay focused on business until I got frustrated enough in 2014. So all those years later, decades later, saying enough is enough. I'm fed up.
That's wild. It's wild. One of the things that I've been highlighted here you may not know this, on the Variety program, we like animal fighting.
I mean, just straight up, we like animals.
You like animal fighting? Okay. I'm not sure I did know that. I should be paying more attention, but I'm not an expert on animal fighting, but yeah.
On my notes from your book, it says ask him about hybrid wolves. I'm hoping that this has something to do with our interests.
Unfortunately, I don't know that it really does. It could, but
you'd be surprised.
You never know. You never know. I don't know what your interests are exactly, but maybe hybrid wolves is your thing. I did not know a whole lot about hybrid wolves.
I still don't. So let us know.
Let's start at 1.
So I was running against Steny Hoyer in the race I just talked about, and I was speaking to this factory in Southern Maryland. I was meeting the people in a little town hall Q&A kind of thing. And people are asking, what about taxes and what about this issue and that issue? And we get to the end. I'm ready to get out of there. And the lady says to me, I have one issue, and I'm going to make my decision based on this, and I just want to know. And I'm like, oh, geez, I almost got out of here before the tough question, She goes, what's your position on hybrid wolves? So instead of saying, what the F are you talking about? I was like, well, honestly, I'm not an expert on hybrid wolves or what the issue is, but I'd love to talk to you afterwards. But yeah, hybrid wolves, apparently they were breeding dogs with wolves, and she liked that idea.
She liked it. So I was just going to say, it feels like the knee-jerk would have been like, I'm against the hybrid wolf.
I'm against wolves. I like dogs, but not wolves. I'm not sure. But I said, why don't we talk after the thing, and I'll get your input.
Maybe that could fit in with the refund the police. Dog-sniffing dogs that are bred with wolves.
No, the refund police is too important to be mixed in with the hybrid wolves.
I just love the idea that there's a single issue voter out there. And this issue
it was a
hybrid
single
wolves.
issue vote. I was like, oh jeez, I almost escaped without tackling this single issue. I was like, but that was the last thing in the world.
You're telling me that it wasn't.
This is the one thing
that wasn't picked up in your polling.
Right. I was like,
huge constituency.
I talked to our pollster. How'd you miss this hybrid wolf?
You gotta love it. All politics is local as hell, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So one more thing that I got to bring up is from your book is when we're talking about being tough and what you have to survive as governor, you have to survive more than usually a governor does. You have to survive cancer
right away.
Yeah. Well, we talked about the riots. So I came in. I pulled off the biggest surprise upset in America. Charles Krauthammer was on Fox calling it a nuclear explosion in Maryland. How did it happen? We never heard of this guy, you know. And then I came into right away into I had to prepare a budget and a legislative package. I had to push my tax cuts through the Democratic legislature. And then the last day of session was the riots in Baltimore. And 60 days later, I got hit with this more personal challenge where out of nowhere, I got, I started to have a couple of things that were bugging me, and I went to the doctor to check it out. And the guy says, I don't think it's much, but I'm going to send you for a CAT scan. And I had a little lump pop out of my neck, and I was like, they test it, then they go, I'm going to go a little lower, look at your chest, I'm going to go a little lower to your abdomen.
Jeez, that's scary.
And I'm like, this sounds like pretty thorough for, just checking out something.
Yeah, you're like, well, I'm the governor. Maybe
they're just being, And then three guys walked into the room, 3 different doctors, and saying, Governor, we have some bad news for you. You've got advanced and aggressive cancer spread all over your body, like 50-some tumors. And I was like,
50 tumors.
Yeah.
Holy
So,
cats.
I had to, right away, the news was shocking because I didn't think I was that sick. I just had a few aches and pains, a couple of things that didn't seem right. I was actually on a trade mission to Asia, and I started to feel a few things. So I checked it out. But anyway, I had to tell my wife and daughters. It was Father's Day weekend.
Oh, man.
And how am I going to explain to them? My dad, who was, in his 80s, that, I was, he had explained it to him, and he took it harder than anybody else. I'm still, even though I'm an old guy, I was his little boy, and he couldn't help me. But I went through, 24-hour day chemotherapy, multiple surgeries. I was in the hospital governing the state. I actually, I had to go tell the public, and they just elected me. You just elect 6 million people.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be taking care of you, and now you're pretty shaky hands. But I'm going to make it through, and I'm 100% cancer free. I battled through 18 months of chemotherapy and 5-6 months in the hospital around the clock. But I ran the state from there, and we kept working.
How much of that do you think?
I used to have a beautiful head of gray TV hair. I looked like I could play a TV guy, and now I look like a wrestler.
Goddamn chemo.
Damn chemo.
How much of that, the fact that you dealt with that right away, how much did that change your perspective on everything?
A lot of things. It makes you really think about
a little introspective, if nothing else. Right?
It made me start thinking about the important things in life. It's like family and the people you love and your people that are there for you.
Yeah.
And I met so many other incredible, fellow cancer patients and their families, and saw what they had to go through. So, it was. It sounds crazy to say, but it's not like I wish that I had got it, but it did. It was overall a positive experience because it made me be more sympathetic to people that are going through those things. And it kind of, I'm motivated by overcoming adversity, and that was a big challenge, just like getting elected in Maryland was, and overcoming it. I felt pretty good after getting it done.
Oh man, well, God bless you. It was a tough fight. There was a lot of people that were,
Yeah, man, I got prayers from all over the state, around the country and the world, and I got blessed by the Pope. I had people doing church services and every kind of denomination you could think of praying.
Well, it worked.
Yeah, it worked.
It worked. So you've been sort of helping to lead a resurgence of the Republican Party in Maryland, and which is no easy task, as you might, as we've mentioned. But you've made an endorsement, one that we are personally very invested in here in the Ruthless Variety program. Wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing that with our listeners.
Well, yeah, I figured you guys were pretty invested in that. But yeah, Matthew Foldy is a terrific young guy who actually volunteered in my campaign in 2014 is when I first got to meet him. He was at my announcement, which weren't that many people at. And he was a volunteer when most people didn't think we had much of a campaign. But I just think I like the fact that he's smart, he's aggressive, he's hardworking, and I think he's the kind of person that could go shake up Congress. I think he's a decent, honest guy, and he's got a tough fight. But I'm really proud of him for stepping up, and I'm happy to support him. But you're right. I mean, look, when I ran in 2014, the party was bankrupt. They had been evicted from their offices. They didn't have any staff. We hadn't elected anybody.
Actually evicted?
Yeah.
Wow.
Or they lost their lease. They couldn't afford to pay rent. I don't know if they actually threw them out on the streets or not. I had the biggest coattails in history. We elected 5 out of 8 county executives. We elected people to the legislature, and we had the biggest coattails ever. We for the first time ever, we had a majority of the local elected officials were Republicans. And then in 2018, it all got wiped out.
Yeah.
They all lost.
And so you were
Except me. I was only lone survivor.
you were in charge of drawing the district lines.
No, this is a better story than that.
It's
Smug.
even better than that, Smug. So Democrats have been, in control of gerrymandering. We had the worst gerrymandering in the country because Democrats have been in control of it forever. I was actually the first Republican governor ever since whenever they did the first census, and to ever be involved in redistricting because they were all Democrats. Yeah, I'm the second Republican reelected in 242 years.
Wow,
in state history.
It's pretty good stat.
But none of them were there during the 10 years when they did the redistricting until I was. So we battled Democrats. I appointed a nonpartisan citizen redistricting commission to say, look, I'll stay out of it. We're just going to draw fair maps. I had a retired federal judge and independent Democrat and Republican members. And we drew really fair maps, and the legislature ignored it and passed even worse gerrymandered maps. They have a 7-1 advantage. They tried to make it 8-0.
Wow,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's
just
crazy.
Just completely unreal.
So I personally raised the money to challenge them in court because they had the attorney general. So we fought them in 2 different court cases, and the judge sided with us. And we tossed out their maps and made them go back and draw them. They didn't draw them quite as well as we did, but it's way more competitive. And I'm the only Republican governor in the country to have successfully thrown out Democratic gerrymandered maps. It's usually working the other way around. So that was a good one. And, I actually, talking about Matthew Foldy as one of the potential places to win, even though we're the bluest state and we only have 1 out of 8 congressmen. I won 6 out of the 8 districts. Mm-hmm. So, there's at least, with the right candidates, they are all, most of them are competitive.
And that district, it's
and
gone
it
from
been
like
for decades.
That district that Matthew Foldy's running in went from like a D+11 to now being an R+1.
Yeah.
And you poll at over 80% favorable in that district.
So that endorsement means something.
That endorsement is huge.
Well, hopefully it won't take them down. I mean,
he's taking all the blame, folks.
Yeah, I'm sure if he goes down, he's going to blame me. But no, I think he's got a good shot, and he's working hard.
Yeah, no, it's great. Well, we appreciate your endorsement in that, Ray.
Absolutely,
it's one that. Look, if we're going to have a red wave, it's districts like that show up in November.
Well, and I appreciate it when people said to me, I didn't have a chance, and it was a joke, and how could you possibly win? And they never gave me the time of day. And so I know people were saying, oh, man, how's he going to win? He's a young guy. It's a tough district. The guy's a multimillionaire. If the guy deserves the support, you got to give him the support.
And it resonates.
It
resonates.
To see him pull off another big upset.
Yeah. I love that. Well, fellas, maybe we should treat the governor to a game. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Should we?
Should I do another shot?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I also think that's a good idea.
You might want to prepare yourself here.
You need some bourbon.
Is it going to be really hard?
Kind of depends.
It can be. It can be.
It can be a tough game. This game is Dem or Journo.
Oh, okay.
See, I mean, it's tough if you think about it.
Yeah.
Right? What's the difference?
I mean, that's very hard. It's almost impossible.
So the way that this game works is I read 4 statements, 3 of which are made by members of the media, 1 by a Democrat, and you have to determine who the Democrat is. It can be tough to tell.
Right. Do I have to remember all 4, or I just jump in when I say that's the one?
Well, you can kind of play however you want. Typically, what we do is he reads all 4.
Okay, we'll go for that.
And then
he will transmit his pick.
For who I think the Dem is.
Yeah.
I secretly transmit who I think is the Dem operative.
That's right.
I got you.
3 journalists.
He's intuition and magic. The rest of us, we have some analysis that are involved.
He just goes with his gut.
He just wings it.
Yeah.
But first, we got to go to that music.
Dem or Journo.
I love that we're treating him to this.
Journo, Dem or Journo, Dem or Journo, Dem or Journo.
Song's too long.
It's perfect, Michael.
I hope the game is better than the song.
We did that live in Minnesota, and it killed.
Oh, okay.
The fans like it.
Maybe I need the crowd around for the live version.
That's probably right.
Okay.
All right, Michael, what do we got?
Well, on Monday was the 4th of July. So I themed all of these on the 4th of July. A lot of normal takes out there on the 4th. So here is statement number 1. This Independence Day, remember that Trump has taken away yours, America.
What? Wow.
Read that one again. This Independence Day, remember that Trump has taken yours away, America.
Amazing.
Okay. All right.
A lot of heat, a lot of high heat in this.
I mean,
this one.
it's so good.
Statement number 2, and this is promoting an event, like a flyer. F the 4th. See you in Reed Park. Okay.
The fact that one of those has to be a Dem operative, one's a journo, given the first two right off the bat.
Yeah. I told you, high heat. Statement number 3. Many of our debates on this July 4th turn on what equality means. What voting rules really give equal access to the ballot?
Oh, this is how they wedge the 4th in? Come on.
That's hell of a shoehorn there.
Oh, boy.
This is good research.
Yeah.
And statement number 4. Gosh, quite a wind-up here. Grilling, baseball, and fireworks, first replaced by symbols, and now by a country tearing itself completely apart. July 4th, 2022, falls in the midst of devastation. It is Independence Day in America, with independence under current and relentless assault.
This is the 4th of July. Like, why are these people
God
not...
bless America.
Have a fireworks or something,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes. Have a hot dog.
Have a hot dog and a beer.
Oh, okay.
All right, here's my guess.
All right, well, I'll turn.
I think this is the Dem operative.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so typically what happens
Yeah.
is we talk these through a little
Yeah,
bit.
okay, let's do it.
So let me just, I'll start with the number 1. Trump has taken it away. I feel like there's been enough briefing of Democrats amongst themselves where they're like, just talking about Trump every day is not doing us the kind of good that we thought. Now, none of them follow that advice, but they know.
Let's look forward instead of backwards. Yeah.
Right, but they know enough.
Yeah.
And it seems like our media definitely has not gotten that message.
True.
Right? What's your take of?
Well, no, I agree with that. But you want my take on which one I think is the.
Oh, you're going to take the whole.
Yeah,
yeah.
well,
You know, I mean, I don't know, but I'm putting too much logic into this. But I can't see that the media was actually saying F the 4th.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with Dem operative on
See,
number 2.
Sometimes logic works, sometimes intuition.
The one that kills me here is the voting rights one, because that's an amazing brainworm take, right? Is that somehow the 4th of July becomes a statement about voting rights. And that you could see an operative getting to. The journo, if it's a journo, and ultimately I'm concluding that it is a journo. I can't wait to find out who it is. So I think in the end I'm gonna go with number 2. I'm gonna agree with the governor. It's F the 4th. Is the operative.
So number 3, the voting rights one, that was NPR.
Come on.
That was NPR.
incredible. NPR's like, well, voting rights were better under the British government. King George was far better on voting rights.
Statement number 4, the grilling, baseball, and fireworks. That was Howard Bryant from ESPN.
What?
Wow.
That is sports now.
That's sports. Unreal.
ESPN.
Yeah.
That's really something.
That's sad.
Okay.
And down to number 1 and number 2. And Smug had picked number 1. Number 1, this Independence Day, remember that Trump has taken yours away, America, was Luke Zaleski from Condé Nast.
Wow.
Condé
I win.
Nast. Yeah, we do.
2-1.
We got it.
See, some fresh set eyes.
Hogan, you're undefeated.
You didn't
right now.
overthink it.
I'm going to quit while I'm ahead.
Now, of your victories in life over cancer,
Yeah.
twice being elected governor,
and winning. Yes, this
your
is bigger.
Your victory here is bigger, obviously.
Has to be.
Obviously.
Number 1.
Yeah. Well, we should
More
start
memorable,
we should
sure.
put a plaque on. Deliver you some kind of a bowl.
I may mention this in a press conference. Or
Well, so wait, do we get who number 2 was?
Oh, number 2 was the Pima County Democratic Party.
Oh, it's a Democrat. That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's how you get out those voters.
yeah.
F the 4th. But we want to represent you.
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing. All right, so the way that we end every one of these things, governors, with three.
It's over already?
It's three. Well,
Sadly.
that was fast.
I know, that was pretty quick, right?
you just want to trash people? We can do that. you got a list? Like, we're good.
Fill it up.
I feel like. Listen. Okay, hold on.
No, I'm done. I'm just kidding. I don't-
now you're trying to get out of it. Hold on. Let me say,
Whatever.
are you going to run for president?
Well, come on. Now you got the hard questions?
Yeah, no. You're the one. I was going to go right to the final three.
Refill is Woodford.
Yeah. Now let's get
Let me do the
let's get
shot
the answer.
first.
Yeah.
You know, the truth is that, you know, I've got till next January to be governor. I think things are going to change a lot between now and next year. We got 2.5 years till the next election. A lot of people have certainly been encouraging me to think about that. And I've said, I promised people in Maryland I'm going to do this job. And I think there's plenty of time to think about it after that. But I haven't closed the door on the possibility. I mean, I want to be a part of the discussion about where the party goes. I care about the country, and, you know, whether that means I'm going to be a candidate for president or I'm going to be a voice in some other way. You know, we'll find out maybe after the end of the year.
He's going to take his time.
Well, it's not a lot of time. I mean, you know.
No, it's not really a lot. But people like to get started on these sort of things.
You know what? Normally, the guys who get started early always lose. When you think about it, all the guys they picked early kind of disappeared. And you know, you don't want to talk about all those guys, but I mean, you know,
let's talk about it.
It was like he was going to be the guy, and then it fizzled. He was the first guy out, and it was Rick Perry was the guy, and he fizzled. And it was Jeb Bush was the guy, and it didn't work. So what you're talking about now is not what we're going to be talking about in 2024.
Yeah,
you know, it's
skate to where the puck's going.
Going to be totally skate to where the puck's going, and like horse racing, the first one out of the gate almost never wins. You know, you got
tough to go wire to wire.
You got to come around the last turn.
Yeah, right. As they would teach us at Pimlico, right?
You know, I'll tell you a funny story. I'd just been elected. I told you it was the big surprise upset. So I was like the shiny new penny of the RGA, you know, and I win the election, and Christie's the chairman, and there's Scott Walker and Chris Christie and Mike Pence, and I'm the guy, like, how in the hell did this guy win? Where did it come from? So they have me up on a press conference at RGA, and we're sitting on this elevated platform at a table. It's Scott Walker, Chris Christie, Mike Pence, and me. This new guy nobody ever heard of, you know?
Right.
And so they were just touting, like, we can win anywhere. You know, this nobody guy pulled off Maryland. And so
look at this guy
they're
won.
supposed to be bragging about how we won Maryland, but instead, all the media wanted to talk about was, you know, Governor Walker, are you going to run for president? Governor Christie, are you going to run for president? Governor Pence, are you going to run for president? This went on back and forth, like multiple questions. And finally, I go, I just want to say categorically, I want to just commit, I am not running for president in 2016. The media and all the other guys. Mike Pence, who's a friend but doesn't have that big of a sense of humor, he was laughing so hard he was crying, and Christie was like, you know, slapping the table and rolling because, you know, he and I have similar personalities, and Scott Walker was just like, why is this guy talking?
You were supposed to be our mascot here today.
It was just for fun. But that was only for 2016. So I'm saying,
you kept your options open.
2024, there's a chance.
You never know. You never know. All right. Last question here before we get into the big three. Let's talk NFL for a minute.
Yeah.
Commanders.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly the point. So I assume, are you a Ravens guy?
So, you know, it's interesting. I grew up in Prince George's County, right outside of the Beltway, or inside the Beltway, but right outside D.C. And so I grew up as a Washington Redskins fan. I went to, you know, RFK, and I was a season ticket holder later on. And but maybe 15 years ago or so, or maybe longer, friends of mine were going to Ravens, and I was like, I'll come to the game with you just to hang out,
right?
Even though I don't care about the Ravens. But I started to like really enjoy it, and it was a great crowd, a great experience. And so long before I ran for governor, I don't want to say I deserted my other team because I still rooted for Washington when they were in different conferences.
I don't think anyone would blame you for leaving them.
Yeah, you can desert them.
I have now. But I mean, you know, I just became more of a Ravens fan. It's a quality organization. You know, I love Harbaugh. You know, I like the whole.
Good dude.
It's a
and it's a good place to see a game. You know?
It's a great fan experience.
Yeah.
I mean, now
And that
we own
QB
the
is just
stadium and we've
insane. It's
upgraded
amazing
it.
QB.
The fan experience is like night and day. From
Oh my
FedEx
God!
Field.
From FedEx?
Yeah.
Holy cats!
I've brought like friends that are in the Washington area and they haven't been to a Ravens game, and they go to the governor's box and they're like, "Oh, this is unbelievable." We're not going back to the Commodores or whatever they want to call themselves.
You gotta get Commodores. You gotta get a homeless rickshaw 4.5 miles to get to the metro.
Yeah.
It's
but look,
unbelievable how bad that
Look,
is. by the
we
way.
want them to stay in Maryland, and
I was gonna say,
I
do
think
you?
they are going to stay in Maryland. But
I noticed you've been in on
we
this.
got to turn the thing around. That
Yeah.
program's got to get fixed.
It really does.
It's been too long. I was at a Super Bowl in the '70s when that's how far back I go. Last time I think they won a game. But,
They beat my Minnesota Vikings in 1987 in the
Yeah, they beat-
NFC Championship.
That still
Beat
hurts.
the Broncos.
That still
too.
hurts, right?
They beat the Broncos. That was rough.
Well, you guys might have to come up there's a preseason Commanders Ravens game. Maybe you have to come up and hang
Yeah.
out with us.
Wow.
I love that. I love
I mean,
that.
we're not going to waste a real game on you guys. Preseason, man.
I don't blame you. Do not blame
I love
you.
that the governor totally gets it. Right? He's like, no, we'll pat you on your head. That's good. Happy to do that. I've had 2 or 3 bourbons. I'm ready to do that.
Yeah, no. Yeah, actually, we have a box at the Commander Stadium and the Orioles and the Ravens. So
Orioles aren't bad this
I
year
can't
either.
give the tickets away to the Commanders. Like Ravens, I have 100 people for every seat begging me to come. And I'm like, hey, would you like to go to the Washington game this weekend? Nah.
Thanks though.
Thanks anyway.
Unless you can helicopter me into the 50-yard line.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can get there.
Yeah.
All right, so here really is the 3 questions.
Okay.
All right. So the first one is, and I'm actually sincerely interested in this.
Unlike all the other stuff we talked about.
That feels about right. If you can plan your last meal on Earth,
Wow.
what would it be?
Well, it would probably have bourbon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
start out.
Good.
Because that makes whatever you eat, because
Yeah.
eat tastes better. I don't remember that. I mean, I guess, I'm a eater. You could tell by looking at me. I like to eat. But it wouldn't have to be anything fancy. I think I'm Italian food. I might go to a pizza or some pasta or something would be my last meal. And it doesn't have to be anything
Is there a
too
specific
high.
pizzeria or restaurant?
I'm kind of a connoisseur of pizza, but
Good.
I don't have one
Okay.
particular one. I'll eat just about any. I'll try them all.
Are you like a designer pizza guy or are you like a football
I'll
pizza guy?
I'm a football pizza guy, but
Yeah.
I'll try the designer stuff. I'm like, that's pretty good, but I need the basics. So I grew up in Prince George's County, and so Lido Pizza is
Yeah.
Okay.
famous.
In the squares.
I went to DeMatha, so you got we don't cut corners, the squares with the pepperoni on
yeah.
top.
Right?
So that's probably what I would do.
Good. Pizza and bourbon.
Those guys just probably they're going to be calling me. Thanks for the plug.
That's great. So,
Bourbon and pizza. Yeah, instead of
Bourbon
beer.
and pizza is a great pick.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Well, you got to have a beer also. Yeah.
but you're
Bourbon pizza beer.
you're governor of Maryland.
Yeah,
and
I know.
I didn't hear a crab cake.
That's the
in
best
there.
I was
part about
ready to
this
go
answer.
for-
You know what?
That's
So-
the
I was ready
best
to say,
part.
yeah, I love crab cakes too.
That's the best part.
Honestly, I love crabs, and I love crab. We have the best crab cakes at the governor's mansion, and I eat crabs all day long. But that would sound like I was pandering.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
But when no one was looking, I would probably eat
See, that's what these 3 questions.
I respect that.
What he gets is that there's no wrong answer, but there's inauthenticity,
Yeah.
and you could see right through that kind of thing.
Well, just gotta go with the
Well,
authentic one.
Yeah.
honestly, I think people say, "How are you so popular in a Democratic state?" I think being sincere and authentic is the thing. People are like, "I'm a lifelong Democrat. I never voted for a Republican, but you seem like you're a regular guy." And I go, "I am a regular guy.
Just the dude.
I'm the dude."
All right. So, second question: if you didn't get back into public service,
Yeah.
right? If you something happened, you chose. I know if you were running, you would have won. So, but if you chose not to run, and there's an 8-year hole, and you can fill it with whatever you want, and let's back that up. It's not like I would just run my business.
Yeah.
Blue sky this thing for
Yeah,
us.
blue
How do
sky.
you fill that time?
How do you fill the time? Well, look, other than being governor, which was a really great job, probably one of the best jobs I've had. The best job I had before that was I was a lifeguard selling suntan lotion in Florida to spring breakers.
Sounds like a great job.
So if I can't,
Amazing answer.
so if I can't, run for president, I could always retire to Florida. It won't be the spring breakers at the pool on the beach, but maybe I could sell suntan lotion, sunscreen gel at a retirement community or something.
I'd love to see Hogan with like the red shorts, shirt, Hasselhoffing it
whistle.
across the
my hairy chest, profiling. Yeah.
Just out here saving kids today, folks.
I mean, I really did that. I worked for a suntan lotion
nose?
company in Florida, being a lifeguard at a pool. It was until governor, it was the best job I had.
Yeah.
Wow, it's a pretty well. If you got that job in California, it pays pretty well too. I don't know if you saw that. It's like $500,000 that you get for being a lifeguard in California. Not bad. I'm guessing
I'm
they
not
didn't
as
do
quick
that.
as I used to be, but I can still swim.
I love it. All right, so last question. This is where we get into like the esoteric, what motivates Governor Hogan. So the way we see it, people are motivated by one of two things. It's either the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat. And it's not that anybody enjoys losing or anybody, doesn't feel good about a victory. It's what sticks with you, right? So the agony of defeat person is somebody whose every victory they've ever had in life, they enjoy for like 10 seconds. Yeah. But every setback they've ever had, they wear like a backpack.
Yeah.
Right? And the thrill of victory person is somebody who's just a chronic optimist charging up the hill, trying to accomplish the next thing. Those are the two poles. Where do you find yourself?
Well, that's a really great question, first of all.
Thanks.
And I don't want to...
We worked on that one.
I don't want to, for the first time ever, like sound like I'm waffling, because I'm really not, but I'm motivated by both. So when the thrill of victory is incredible. Like, there's nothing better than that win in 2014, when we pulled off what nobody believed was possible. 2018, when it was a really tough year in a tough state, a blue wave in a blue year, we pulled off a huge, smackdown, and was probably the biggest win in the country in 2018. So the victories are great. But I am motivated by the struggles, maybe not the defeats, but like the whole, fighting when people. I think I'm most motivated by doing the things that people say can't be done. When people say you can't do this, that's what motivates me. It's not the losses. I do remember. I mean, when I battled cancer, I remember that. When we went through the riots, when I was leading the Governors Association through COVID. I mean, those are all struggles. I'm going to remember. They motivated me, but the victories were sweeter. But I think the most motivating thing to me is somebody says I can't do something, I got to go prove them wrong.
He's an agony defeat guy.
It's an agony defeat guy.
What am I?
You may not know it, but in your heart, you're an agony defeat guy.
Well, so the race with Hoyer I was telling you about, it was like the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat in like 24 hours. I won the biggest thing ever. Oh, crap, I lost. But I was motivated. I've been going back to business.
Yeah, right? Totally.
Yeah, I'm going to wait 20-some years and be governor.
An optimistic agony of defeat guy.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair diagnosis.
I mean, shouldn't you learn from both?
Yeah, you should. You should. That's the point. But there's an additional motivation there. I like it's the touchiness on telling you can't do it.
The chip on the shoulder.
No, that's the key. I mean, I like proving people wrong.
Yeah.
So
it's more fun than having people love you.
Right.
That's it.
That's true.
That's it.
Right?
It's true.
Yeah. People have range of answers, but when you give like a couple of little details like you just did.
This is our Dr. Phil segment.
It is. This is what we do.
I feel like I should be laying on a couch.
Every episode. Listen, Governor Larry Hogan, we can't thank you enough. This has been a pleasure. Thank you for coming in studio. Thanks for the bourbon. We made a little dent in it.
We drank half the bourbon.
Yeah, we did.
So it's been a great interview.
For the record. But thank you, guys. I really enjoyed it. I really appreciate the opportunity.
You got it. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.